is the day the world is about to change. Only a few hours now, and Donald J. Trump will put his hand on the same Bible used by Abraham Lincoln on the 4th of March, 1861, to become president. Chief Justice John Roberts will place the oath upon Donald Trump to become the 45th president of the United States. Those are the bullet points for today. We are live in Washington, D.C., from Boyle Studios of Hillsdale College. Thank you for their support. It's the Steve Gruber Show. So much to cover today, but it's all about one thing. It's about America. It's about you. It's where we go from here. Might sneak a couple of calls in as well. So get ready. Get some coffee. Please get dressed. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it. It is the 20th of January, 2017. In just a short time, Donald Trump will become the 45th president of the United States, and Barack Obama will move down the street, not far away, but he'll be down the street as his 8-year tenure in the Oval Office will come to a close. And as I mentioned here just moments ago, it's interesting to note that both President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Mike Pence will swear their oaths of office on historic Bibles. Trump being sworn in, as I said, by Chief Justice John Roberts, using the same Bible that President Lincoln used during his swearing in by Chief Justice Roger Taney in 1861. In addition, Trump will also use another Bible that was given to him by his mother in 1955 when he graduated from Sunday primary school at the First Presbyterian Church in New York. President Obama was the only other chief executive to take his oaths of office on the Lincoln Bible, which is part of the permanent collection of the Library of Congress in January 2009 and again in January 2013. In his first inaugural address, President Lincoln appealed to the better angels of our nature. As he takes the same oath of office 156 years later, Donald Trump will be humbled to place his hand on Bibles that hold special meaning to both his family and to our country. For Mike Pence, he'll be sworn in by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who will become the first African-American in American history to administer the oath of office to the Vice President, or the President for that matter, of the United States, using the Reagan family Bible. He'll be the first official since Ronald Reagan to do so. So isn't that interesting? Quickly to Matt in Okemos here on Election Day. Matt, what's on your mind?
I want to say Obama went to Washington to change America, and Trump is going to go there to change Washington. We liked America, and that's why we voted for him.
I think you're right, Matt. That's a good thought, and thank you for checking in with it. Time to fix Washington and go to work for America, not go to work for Washington. But it's a busy city right now, I can assure you, even at this hour. There are legions of law enforcement and military spread out across this city. It's a fortress of security, and we're going to be making our way down. We have very good positions not too far from where the swearing in will take place. And then I've got a little surprise for you coming up a little bit later. But I wanted to share with you on the 8th of November, Donald Trump and I had a conversation. I'd like to share a couple of minutes of that conversation with you right now, what he said then and where he is now. Go ahead and roll that, Alex.
Election Day 2016. And I wonder how many of you thought it would get down and be this close.
I know that a lot of the Democrats thought this was going to be put away early, but Donald Trump has defied gravity. He has defied the pollsters. He has defied common wisdom and common logic, and he has continued to perform. I've said for weeks that Donald Trump's victory on Election Day would likely run through the heart of the Midwest and specifically through Michigan. In recent weeks, I've said, and I strongly believe if Donald Trump wins here today in Michigan, he wins. Nobody believed that last week, not in Hillary Clinton's camp, but they believe it today, I can assure you. So does Donald Trump. He joins me on the program. Mr. Trump, good morning.
Hello, Steve. Thank you.
What a big day for you. It's great news, by the way. A brand new poll has you leading in Michigan for the first time, up by 2 points. Another poll has you up by 1 point in Pennsylvania because your message resonates with middle America.
Well, I left Michigan last night at about 1:30 in the morning, and we had to have 21 or so thousand people at that rally. It was unbelievable. And in my speech, I kept talking about cars. It's not my business, but I said, the car business is being destroyed. It's being taken out. It's going to Mexico. You folks have to do something about it. And I talked about it for years, but it seems to have resonated with the people of Michigan, and I'm going to do something about it. And Hillary's not going to be able to do anything.
Well, it's more than that.
The same old thing.
It's more than you've ignited a movement, let's be honest, in America. But today is the moment of truth. It's all about turnout and making sure that those 21,000 people that were in Grand Rapids last night or in Sterling Heights a couple of days ago get to the polls. And I'm sick and tired of hearing the people say, if Donald Trump doesn't win Florida, he doesn't have a path to victory. You do, because it runs through Pennsylvania and Michigan, which people have not been paying close enough attention to, in my estimation.
Michigan, I just view it as a place where I love the people. I love what they've done in the past and how hard they work. And then you see these companies like Ford 3 weeks ago moved its small car production to Mexico, and it's happening more and more, and it's very unfair to our country. But what's happened to Michigan is incredible. You look at the number of people now compared to the number of people that used to work in that business. It's very sad to see.
We really have suffered here. Donald Trump on the Steve Gruber Show on Election Day today, putting aside all the noise, all the WikiLeaks, all the finger pointing, all the nonsense, really, it comes down to jobs in the economy and people wanting a chance for themselves and for their kids. And these Obamacare rates are ridiculous. That's why your message is working, I believe.
We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. And just before this election, people started seeing what's happening with rich. In your state, it's up massively.
Well, it's
Every
horrible.
state, it's up horrible. Massively. I think Obamacare is a very, very big factor. I think jobs are a tremendous factor.
Well, and the other thing about Obamacare, before we leave that, it's also created, for many people, the 29-hour work week. I mean, it's destroyed the 40-hour work week. In Michigan, we like to go to work. We want a chance to go to work, to roll up our sleeves and get things done. That's been stolen from us.
It is so horrible, and that's forced by Obamacare. That's just one of the problems. I mean, frankly, that's one of the many problems. It is so bad at so many different levels, it can't be fixed. It's a concept that can't work. It's no good.
I agree with that. I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. I know you've got to run again, but has this campaign changed you personally over the last 18 months?
I think it has. First of all, the people of this country are incredible. The potential of the country is incredible. The people are so incredible, but at the same time, I see so much sadness because they're capable, the potential is there. And I thought of it over the last few days. To a large extent, I think it's a campaign of common sense. And we're going to straighten it out, I'll tell you, Steve. And by the way, I've heard you for a long time, and you're a man of common sense. You get it.
Mr. Trump, I greatly appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to actually talking to you again as the president-elect.
It's my honor, Steve. Thank you very much.
All right, there you have it, everybody. Donald Trump here on the Steve Gruber Show. Voting time in Michigan. The polls are open. It's time for you to get out there and cast your vote. Do your homework. Take all the input. We'll take a break. We'll take your phone calls after the break as well at 888-900-9966.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, it is Inauguration Day 2017. But not everybody's going to partake in the festivities. In fact, some people will be specifically blocked, I suppose, from watching the inauguration and the inauguration speech. We've been covering this story for the last few days about a fourth grade teacher in Michigan who said, he just can't trust Donald Trump. So and I'm paraphrasing, he just can't trust Donald Trump in his speech after taking the oath of office in his inaugural speech. So his fourth graders won't watch this speech, this historic speech, even though to me it's a teachable moment where he could teach American history in real time and talk about what's happening in the peaceful transfer of power and all of those things. Joining me now, Kathy Hoekstra, regulatory policy reporter for Watchdog.org. She also writes for the Detroit News and a host of other folks as well. Kathy, welcome back to the program.
Well, hi, Steve. Great to talk to you again.
Great to talk to you. You've been following this. It started with a teacher sending me an email that I posted on my Facebook page that sent my Facebook page into near meltdown. And then you picked up the story, and you've been exploring it in other ways and other places. What's the latest?
Well, the latest, Steve, is that we have a lengthy letter sent to parents by the principal of Explorer Elementary School. You may recall it took more than 24 hours for the superintendent to issue any kind of response after you got things going by reading the email on the air. And her reply, the superintendent, was very, very brief, just a very brief letter put on a kind of an obscure location on the district website, which was very, as I think you said to me at one point, when we were talking about this, it may as well have been a blank piece of paper because it really was. Well, in my opinion, this is a full-length letter, and to her credit, the Principal Kelly Campbell, it was a very lengthy letter that went into a little more detail, but I don't know that it said anything more than the superintendent's letter, really.
I just had a chance to peruse that as well. I don't think there was much there either. And I guess my concern is this. The teacher can choose to have the children watch this inauguration speech or not. Okay, I get that, and maybe it's part of his teaching lesson, and maybe it's not. But I guess I was more concerned with the tone and tenor of the two emails, because there was a first email that you and I have both read that went out the day after the election. And I think that it, brought into question the lack of diversity in the town that this man works and lives, and that he found it hard, he said, to find diversity in the children in his district. He had to look hard to find their uniqueness. I find that is disturbing, and is odd, I guess, is a good word, as anything else that I've read.
Absolutely, Steve. And that's actually the focus of the piece that I'm going to be posting today, hopefully in a short hour or two. That's going to be the focus of it, because that's really a lot of what's being missed in this entire thing. Nobody, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, nobody wants an administration to run in and censor every communication between teachers and parents. I think everybody agrees with that.
I agree with that. But here's something that I just learned, and I'll share this with you, but I just learned this from a parent sending in, said there's a code of conduct, a handbook that's signed by everybody that specifically addresses political opinions from the teachers in the classroom. Now, I haven't seen this yet, but the teacher from that district who has students in that school says there are specific prohibitions of giving indications of your political beliefs in that district that everybody has to adhere to. So I'm curious to see that document. I bet you hearing about it, I bet you are too.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, there was one line in the superintendent's email, the very, very short thing, that they trust teachers to their communications with parents to strike a balance and basically present everything fairly. And I'm totally paraphrasing it. But to me, that was not done in either one of the emails that you and I have seen from this teacher. And I spoke with a parent last night as well in great length about just that, about the tone and the tenor of the email. And we also discussed the status of the diversity in Williamston. And he said, you know what? He said, diversity goes beyond skin color here. We have people of all income levels. We have people of all different professions. We have, people of different religious faiths. He said diversity is more than skin color. And I would
agree with that.
Yeah, that really set him off. All
right, so tell me this, Kathy. Where's the article going to be, and when do we... I know you've been working and doing revisions and so forth as you get new information. You've been working hard and putting up on watchdog.org, Detroit News, all over the place. Where can we find it first today?
It'll first be on watchdog.org, just like all of the other pieces that I've written. And my goal is to get it up before inauguration later this morning.
So you've been working hard. So watchdog.org will have that. And like I said, now I'm going to see if I can find a copy of this handbook, because if it's spelled out specifically that you're, and honestly, does it really need to be spelled out that you should not be bringing your political beliefs into the classroom? But apparently, even though it probably shouldn't be necessary, it is, and it was signed, and it's supposed to be adhered to. So we're going to try to see if we can get our hands on that. And it's not. Let's not kid ourselves. This is not unique to this community. These sorts of concerns have been raised all over the state, all over the country, because people are bringing their political agenda to the table in this contentious year.
Right, and again, that's another thing that I think you and I have talked about it, but it's a point that's not being grasped by a lot of people right now. But it's that this teacher, he has every right to show the inauguration, not show the inauguration, show the speech part, or show the ceremony part and not the speech. But, you can also do that in your classroom without sending emails out to people. To me, the optics of it, if not the actual motive of it, which I still question, but at the very least, the optics of it are that this teacher is using his students and using his status as a teacher to these students as a springboard to be able to talk about his political agenda outside the classroom. And that's
what I said, Kathy.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Exactly. I believe that, the message is being sent here. Your new president is a bad guy, and we can't watch him on TV. That's the message overall. I've got to run, Kathy. Kathy Hoekstra.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for it.
By the way, little update for the story we just did with Kathy Hoekstra. There will be a free inaugural watch party in the city of Williamston today at the Sun Theater. Free to attend. All families welcome. Doors open at 10:30. It goes on till 1:30. I'm sure this is going on all over the country, but in fairness to that small community, and some, a lot of conversation going on around that community and that teacher, let's give some balance there. Inaugural watch party at the Sun Theater. So good luck to those folks. My next guest, Chris Simmons, counterintelligence expert, one of the most successful counterintelligence officers of the last half century. Chris, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
I've never seen anything quite like it since, Cleveland, but this is even more intense as far as the security, and this is something you know a lot about. We were in traffic yesterday, and I'm not kidding you, at some point something happened in front of us, and there had to be 35 consecutive Homeland Security trucks in a row, lights, sirens, the whole bit, going past us down the middle of the avenue. Boom, there they go. And they just swarm. So anything that goes wrong, they're everywhere. Tell me about what it's like to put together security for an event like this.
Well, right now you are in, without a doubt, the most secure city in the world. The D.C. National Guard has historically had a huge part in hosting and overseeing. And you're talking about an event that goes on every 4 years, so I don't want to say it's regimented, but a lot of the people that will be there or have been there doing security, this isn't their first rodeo. Some of them have been doing it for, this is their 5th or 6th or 7th inaugural. So it's well put together, and like you pointed out, you do have every intelligence and law enforcement agency in the United States represented there.
Well, we got a ride this morning. The best way to get around in these towns is using Lyft and Uber and so forth. And our driver this morning, I said, "What do you do otherwise?" And he said, "Well, I'm a police officer with one of the agencies." I said, "Well, how many police agencies are there in D.C.?" He said, "There's 92." I said, "Come on." He goes, "There's 92 different law enforcement branches, agencies, divisions, whatever." Does that sound about right to you? Because I'm like, is that even possible? But apparently, he seemed to know what he was talking about.
Unfortunately, it does sound about right. There is a bit of over-specialization, which, of course, the downside is it breaks down the communication. But in something like this, the major players, the Bureau, some of the hardcore counterterrorism forces and various police units, they're going to be the leaders. And so it's nice to have the support of the niche specialists, but the first team, they're very well prepared for whatever may happen.
So it's the most secure city in the world. Okay, so that part is obviously comforting to folks like myself that'll be heading down to watch it firsthand. But doesn't that make it a bigger target for those that would want to do us harm, whether they're homegrown or from overseas? Wouldn't that make it the biggest plum of all?
It would, but even going after the biggest plum, you've got to look at their challenges, such as the public areas in D.C. are so covered by video surveillance. It will be, if anything were to happen, it will take no time before they find who did it, because there'll be footage. When you go downtown today, expect to be photographed a couple hundred times at least.
Well, okay, so you make a great point here. Chris Simmons with us, counterintelligence expert. Ivy and I were just looking at the tickets we have to get in to watch the events, and she said it's probably about a 20-minute walk because you've got all of the main streets around the Capitol have been closed. I mean, they're closed off, giant trucks full of sand and so forth, so they're not even there as far as being able to be used. All right, so we're going to walk about 20 minutes around the outside of the perimeter before we go into the gates that we're coming into, the blue gates for us today. How many times does my picture get taken in 20 minutes?
In 20 minutes, I mean, in that area, easily 50 times.
Yeah, or maybe more.
At a minimum. And you will see a mix of, some of the security will be visible. You'll see them, men and women in suits with the earpieces clearly visible, standing in the main entrances of buildings as you walk past. It's the other half, the undercover officers that are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. But I think last night with the protest that occurred overnight, you could argue that for some, that was a test of the police. There was only a couple hundred protesters, but they were certainly sizing up how many police were on scene, how long did it take them.
Oh, sure. Here's the thing. When I was in Cleveland, and we were there for the Republican National Convention, and there were some protesters there, what I saw a couple of different times were these police officers fully, ready for whatever happens. I mean, fully loaded for bear, if you will, on bicycles, which, at first glance is kind of, unusual to some. But when something would happen in Cleveland, man, they would move 200 and 300 bicycle police officers could move through the streets, get to where they need to be, and fast, because they have less restrictions on how they can move. And that's one of the ways that they get out around really quickly and effectively. Let me ask you this about the science, if you will, and tell us what you can. But when you talk about my picture getting taken 50 times in 20 minutes, do they know who I am? Do you think that in the world today that you have facial recognition technology, you've got retinal scans, you've got a whole host of things? Do you think the government has a pretty good idea of who's who and where they are?
They have a really good idea who the worst of the offenders are. And when
so then they do know me. All right, that's good. I just,
Well, in a sense, they're proving a negative. It's as they take your photo and Ivy's and all the others, they're running you against the biometrics, the facial recognition, to make sure you are not a match. So the process is actually very.
Well, let me ask you this, and I've only got a little bit of time left, but that's fascinating. So if, let's say, they do find a match, boom. Here's Mr. Bob Smith. No offense to any Bob Smith out there listening, but here's Bob Smith walking through the crowd. He matches. We've got a match here for a guy we don't want anywhere near this event. How quickly do they get to that guy and neutralize or remove him from the situation?
Oh, it'd be within minutes, seconds, depending on how strong the confirmation is and the proximity to major targets.
Wow, that's just fascinating. And so you're seeing the very best of, well, it's high tech and old tech here, really. I mean, it's like you say, facial recognition, facial scans, cameras, and it's also, nightsticks and firearms if that's what they need to neutralize the situation. So all technology, old and new, put to the test here. Chris, I'll give you 30 seconds for the last word. How secure is Washington, D.C.?
You're in the safest city in the world right now. And when you're talking about Cleveland and the mounted police, the bicycle police, remember in D.C. you also have the horse-mounted police.
They did.
So in terms of responsiveness and an intimidation factor, because if you've never had a mounted police officer charging in your direction, the innocent people get out of the way pretty quickly.
You know they do, because you're looking up at a horse that weighs 1,000 or 1,200 pounds. It's an attention getter, I'll tell you that. Chris Simmons, great conversation. Thank you for stopping in.
Thank you.
There you have it. Most secure city in the world. I guess they heard I was coming. It's Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2017. Back after this.
The Steve Gruber Show, American Values with Midwestern Common Sense.
All right, the inauguration begins around 11:30 Eastern Time. Be music and then of course, the ceremonies. And as I mentioned, Donald Trump using the same Bible used by Abraham Lincoln. Now, that's the same Bible used by Barack Obama in 2009 and 2013. And the one used by Abraham Lincoln on the 4th of March, 1861 by Chief Justice Taney at that time. Fascinating amount of history. Unfortunately, it looks like a wave of rain might come through. So we're trying to figure out the umbrella situation. We'll sort that out. In the meantime, we're going to talk to Hans Van Spakovsky and sort out where we are as a nation and where we are as far as Barack Obama's legacy on this, the last day of his tenure in the White House. Hans, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, glad to have you here. So here it is. We know that for the last several weeks, months, maybe even longer, one of the things that Barack Obama has been so concerned with is his legacy. Do you think that's fair to say?
Oh yeah, I think that's been his major preoccupation.
Well, okay, so I'll give you the opportunity. Score his success in that arena. Did he secure his legacy? Has he fumbled his legacy? What exactly will be the legacy of Barack Obama a year from now, 5 years from now, and into the future?
Well, I think he may have achieved many things that he wanted to do, but I don't think most of those things were good for the country, good for the people. And I think actually he's going to be very disappointed in the way history is going to view him down the road.
And why do you say that? What are some of the things that you think that he may have thought he was doing something that was important or part of his agenda that you think in retrospect down the line won't look so good in the rearview mirror?
Well, look, the most unpopular thing he did was Obamacare. That is consistently been not liked by the American people, and the result of it has been terrible. It has caused the health care costs of Americans to shoot up with huge increases in premiums. It has radically reduced the number of companies out there providing health insurance coverage in many states, some states saying that you've only got one choice, so competition's been reduced. I mean, it's been a disaster in the area of healthcare, and that's one of the things that I think people are going to remember the most.
Well, healthcare is certainly one of the things that's on the early agenda of Donald Trump. Now, do you think Trump does anything today work-wise, or does he start tomorrow? When does he start, putting his signature on executive orders to roll back previous executive orders and start making real change in Washington?
I think all of us are going to be overjoyed, and I think the left-stream media is going to be shocked over what's going to happen in the next 3 days. No, I think you're going to see some executive action signed this afternoon, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see it Saturday, Sunday, also before the regular Monday work week begins.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. I was talking to the new congressman from Michigan, who is General Jack Bergman, yesterday. He's 70 years old. It looks like he could take me in pretty much any contest that he wanted to take me in. And he's 70. Donald Trump is 70. And these two gentlemen strike me as the two hardest working guys that I'm familiar with right now. I mean, these guys have staying power. They work hard. They put in a lot of hours. And I guess I'm just saying I'm impressed by their stamina.
Yeah, and if you look at not only what Donald Trump has promised to do, but look, you look at his whole history, his professional career in business, it's very clear that he's always had that energy, and I know for a fact that he has told folks inside his transition team that he wants to get as much done as quickly as possible. So there isn't going to be any honeymoon period, as folks often talk about with new presidents. He's going to hit the ground running. I mean, the press folks are saying, and this is based on conversations with Trump's new spokesman, Sean Spicer, that he may sign 4 or 5 executive orders this afternoon. We don't know on what, but I suspect it's going to be possibly on things like Obamacare, immigration, and perhaps energy, too.
Yeah, Sean Spicer, I look forward to seeing what his interaction with the press is going to be, because it's going to be contentious.
Yeah.
Because this press, well, let's be honest. I mean, this press has had no love for this candidate, certainly no love for this president-elect. Think about the stories about how his transition team was in chaos and, it was going horribly. He got done faster selecting his cabinet with more qualified people of high character and real experience than I think anybody in my lifetime. I think it was the fastest assembling of a cabinet that I've seen. Maybe I'm wrong, Hans, but what do you think?
Oh, no, listen, I agree with you. I think it's actually very impressive, the number of folks they got chosen. And it's not just that they chose them, but they got them into nomination hearings. And let me tell you, that's not an easy thing. There's a lot of preparation that goes into that, getting someone ready for those. And we've had a whole string of them.
Yeah, because then the next knock was, well, they don't have their ethics and, background checks done. Everybody showed up with their ethics and background checks done on time and complete. It's like the press is like, well, this hasn't happened. Well, here it is. Oh, yeah, there it is. Well, they haven't done this. Oh, yeah, there it is. I mean, they're looking for anything they can find. And what's embarrassing, intellectually embarrassing, is every time they make some claim, it goes down in flames within moments, it seems. I'll give you 30 seconds for the last word.
I think that what the American people wanted, look, they voted for change in this election, and I think that they are going to get what they expected to get, and I think folks are going to be very pleasantly surprised by what's going to happen based on everything I'm hearing. I'm
looking forward to a GDP north of 3%. That's what I'm hoping for in 2017. I'm serious. That's what I really want. I want the economy to start to run the way the American economy should. Hans, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hans von Spakovsky here on the Steve Gruber Show. Always a great conversation. Quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Welcome to it, a historic day in America. I think that's a massive understatement, to say the least. But glad to have you with us here today on the Steve Gruber Show. You can check in at stevegruber.com, send comments, go to the Facebook page of the Steve Gruber Show. A lot of conversation today as Donald Trump takes the oath of office in, about 5 hours or so now. I think he'll be officially sworn in. It depends on how it moves. a bit of a stiff rainstorm headed this way, so we'll see how that plays out. I believe that, didn't you just check that umbrellas are banned? Umbrellas are banned from the event, is that correct? So the people out there, Hy-Vee says that no umbrellas. So we'll be out there with, no protection from the weather. If that's the way it is, so it is. We've endured worse. We've endured storms for the last 80 years, so there is that, but we're looking forward to it. We've got the tickets, and it's a historic event to say the least, and so rain or shine, we're both excited.
Rain or shine.
Yeah, rain or shine. So what do you think as you see the police and so forth going by the window and the crowds, and we haven't seen much for protesters. I know there was stuff on the news, but we didn't really see much of that yesterday.
No, we did drive around quite a bit in the city, and it was, of course, traffic jam, shut down this road, shut down that road to get these giant concrete barriers in. But no, I think maybe we saw a couple of groups, I'd say 50 people at the most, but nothing, honestly, when we were in Cleveland for the RNC, there were far more protesters than what we've seen so far. But, today is the day, so we'll see if we see any more activity in that regard. But I think I said this to you yesterday. It's this aura of enthusiasm that you can just feel in this city that I think is just getting more and more pronounced. It's just...
What did you call it? The aura of...
The
aura optimism?
Of optimism,
Yeah.
The aura of enthusiasm, because people are really looking forward to the future, I think.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and we've been talking about that. There are people, though, and I've been listening to the other side as well, that are not pleased to see Barack Obama go, but so it is. These 8 years come to a close, and we move on with Donald Trump, and we certainly hope, that the economy and foreign policy and other places that have been of great issue to many of us finally turn around. I hope it doesn't rain. The lady has spent so much time on your hair and so forth. You want to look good when you're there, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we didn't bring an umbrella, and we were offered an umbrella from the fine folks here at Hillsdale College in D.C. But I looked at the items that you're not allowed to bring in, and I'm thinking, well, I guess we're just going to get wet, because I looked at the radar, and there is a tremendous amount of rain on the way. So I think starting around noon, it's just going to...
Isn't rain on a wedding day supposed to be good luck? That's what they say. So maybe rain on Inauguration Day is good luck as well.
Yes.
That's what we hope.
And, it is a historical day, so I look forward to being there, rain or shine.
All right. And then, of course, we'll give you a complete update of this whole event and pictures and so forth, and we'll give you a rundown come Monday of what our perspective is of everything. Now, you may recall back during the campaign, Donald Trump, talked about some of the things he's going to do, like propose a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress, a hiring freeze on federal employees, a requirement that for every new regulation, 2 must go, a 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials becoming lobbyists, a lifetime ban on lobbyists going to work for foreign governments. These are all some of the things that we're going to be looking for as we head to the future. What are you looking for? 888-900-9966 is the hotline number, 888-900-9966. Jennifer, what are you looking forward to? She's on the hotline.
I'm looking for peace of mind. Over the past 8 years, I have lived through one crisis after another. And if it wasn't acted upon immediately, without vetting it, we were all going to go to holy heck and back. I have nothing but admiration for Mr. Trump, because no one has placed his heart and his soul, his very empire at risk to take on a thankless job. And I do believe that he's the only one that can save us. And at 85, I don't know whether I'll be around to see his second term, but I'm sure going to fight for it. I think that he will be one of the best presidents in the history of this country because of the circumstances with which he is entering this great battle. And I pray that God will put the wings of the angels around him and protect him, because he has a lot of work to do, and he is for the people. He's not going to be out on that golf course 300 times. He's not going to take a vacation every time you turn around at the expense of the taxpayers. I have great admiration for that man, and you, sir, please be careful today. And thank you so much for allowing me to get out and just kind of voice how I feel. Thank you so much.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that on this historic day. Jennifer, 85 years old and positive and optimistic, that aura of optimism. That's what Ivy said that yesterday as we were around the city and seeing different folks. And by the way, you know, this whole notion that, you know, Donald Trump was elected by this notion put forward by the left of, you know, by a gaggle of white people that don't like, you know, diversity and misogynist and xenophobic people elected Donald Trump. I would like to bring to your attention the number of folks wearing the bright red Make America Great or other Trump hats and paraphernalia that are the whole rainbow of America. They really are. They're from all backgrounds, colors, creeds, shapes, and sizes, and it's good to see. It's good to see that the myth of who supports Donald Trump is exactly that, a myth, and that he is supported by a very wide range of folks. Some of the other announcements from Gettysburg, I'm going to work through this list because these are things that we're going to hold him accountable for. From Gettysburg, some other things that Donald Trump said he's going to do: renegotiate NAFTA, withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, direct the Secretary of Treasury to label China a currency manipulator unless they change their behavior, direct the Secretary of Commerce and U.S. trade representatives to identify foreign trading abuses that unfairly impact American workers and direct them to use every tool under American and international law to end those abuses immediately, lift the restrictions on the production of $50 trillion worth of job-producing American energy reserves, including shale, oil, natural gas, and clean coal, lift the Obama-Clinton roadblocks and allow vital energy infrastructure projects like the Keystone Pipeline to move forward, and a whole lot more. It's almost time to go to work, boys and girls, because it's almost time for the Trump presidency.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
All right, it is the 20th of January, 2017, historic day, the last day of the presidency of Barack Obama and the first day of the tenure of Donald Trump as the 45th president of the United States. As you have heard, many members of the Democratic Party will not be attending today's inauguration out of protest. Democrat Dan Kildee of Michigan's 5th District will be there, but he wrote this in a press release that came out here recently. I share the disgust of many Americans with President-elect Donald Trump's dangerous actions and rhetoric during the campaign and since being elected. But the question I have to ask myself is, what is the best way for me to fight? And basically paraphrasing, he says it's to be in his seat. But tomorrow he will march with thousands of Michigan residents at the Women's March, again to protest and speak out against President Trump's dangerous policies and rhetoric. Congressman Kildee is joining me today on the program. Congressman, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
Glad to have you here. You said that basically your position, obviously you're not a Donald Trump fan, I think it's pretty safe to say, having read that, but you believe the best place for you to be is to be in the seat you were elected to occupy. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I guess I can sympathize with some of those who are upset, disappointed, and as my statement says, there are a lot of things that President-elect Trump says in the manner that he carries himself that I'd prefer, he took a different path. But I have my job to do, and the way our democracy works is that those differences are actually intended in our system of government, and you can't position. I can't play the legitimate role as a legislator putting a check on the authority of the president unless I'm there. And that starts with being a witness to the inauguration of the president. And so
I think that's fair.
Don't really see any alternative to that.
No, I think it's appropriate for the members of Congress to be in attendance, whether you are a supporter or not. But I do question this: protesting him on the very first day in office. I mean, does the guy not get any benefit of the doubt? Does he get no chance to try to lead this country? Does he get no break from you, Congressman? Does he get no chance to become the president and do things for America that he was elected to do?
Well, I mean, let's be clear. Our system of government is not just about people in government. Our system of government starts on day one with elected officials in office and with citizens who are activated, who are speaking their minds, and who are using their voices. So it's not as if one part of that equation has to pause. People need to express themselves in any way that they choose, that's legitimate, that's safe, that's fair, that's legal, because it's that expression that informs elected officials, including the President of the United States, as they make the decisions they make. So I see no difficulty with that. I mean, it has been our history that on day one, people who take office, but the differences and the expression of those differences starts right away as well.
And I appreciate that. I embrace the First Amendment as much as anyone, I believe, and so I appreciate your point of view on that. But I also hope that you and because you said this to me on the program before, if you find common ground with a man, maybe it's on NAFTA, maybe it's on a jobs plan that would benefit Michigan. You've told me previously you are willing to work with the man, Donald Trump, as president, if he does things that you believe are proper. Is that correct?
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, the odds are that we will find common ground on some issues just based on the things that he said during the campaign. Trade is one that I know he and I share certain views on. But just as I was generally supportive of President Obama, but separated from him on some issues, I may separate from President-elect Trump more often. But when I do find, common cause, the people I work for want me to get things done, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Congressman Dan Kildee on the program, Democrat from the 5th District. Let me ask you this. You referred a couple of times in this brief press release to Donald Trump's dangerous policies. What are those dangerous policies that you wouldn't agree with? What are some of the things that concern you when you refer to dangerous policies?
His approach to Vladimir Putin really scares me. This is a leader, journalist, who participated in the bombing of hospitals, schools in Syria, in Aleppo, and the notion that Donald Trump, not only admires Vladimir Putin bothers me. Now, here's the thing. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt when he begins to take office and takes on the incredible responsibility of that job. And I'm going to leave open the possibility that he will have to change his view. But I have been, in the classified briefings, I've seen the information. I'm very troubled by that. And so to me, on day one, that is the biggest concern that I have. The other areas of public policy where we will differ on, and you and I have talked about the Affordable Care Act in the past. I'm hopeful that there is a replacement that the Republicans and President-elect Trump can come together on. But I have yet to see the detail, and I've yet to see him, really do anything other than to sort of make broad pronouncements about how much we're going to like what he comes up with. That's another area where I think we're going to have to find some common ground, because I'm not sure, but within the Republican conference, there's going to be agreement over what that will be. That's an area where we're going to have to do some real work.
And a lot of people are going to have to pay close attention to that. But what I'm hearing from you, at least here, as we end one era and open another, is at least there's the possibility that you will consider what is put on the table. Excuse me, Congressman Dan Kildee here. And you're also, and we've only got about 30 seconds here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, you're also widely rumored to be considering a run for governor of the state of Michigan. Any decision in that regard?
No, in fact, I'm of the view that we just finished an election. Today we're swearing in the president that we just elected. The people of Michigan need a break from campaigning, and I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to focus on my work here. But sometime this year, I'll make a decision.
Congressman Dan Kildee, enjoy the event today. I greatly appreciate you stopping by, as always.
Thank you much.
There you have it, Congressman Dan Kildee.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
33 after the hour on this historic day, January the 20th, 2017, the end of the Obama administration, the beginning of the Donald Trump era as president, the 45th. A lot of talk about the economy, a lot of talk about regulations being reduced, taxes being scaled back, and yet a headline written by Steve Forbes, a former presidential candidate himself and a man that knows a thing or two about money, to say the least, says House Republicans are preparing to hit consumers with a horrible new tax that will harm Donald Trump and hurt the economy. No better person to ask than Steve Forbes himself, who joins us on the program. Mr. Forbes, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Steve. This crazy tax the Republicans are toying with, they're putting together a big tax cut package. But for some strange reason, they feel they have to introduce a new tax that will take over $100 billion a year from American consumers to finance these other tax cuts, which is bizarre. With this tax proposal they have, it's called the border adjustability tax. It's sort of like a equivalent of a 10 to 20% sales tax. So anything that comes into this country, like refining gasoline or something like that, or parts for cars or clothes you buy, will have a 20% tax. So if you go to buy a new gallon of gasoline, you're going to pay 30 cents extra for that gallon of gasoline. Then even
because now hold on, I just want to jump in here because you called it the border adjustability tax, which is an odd sounding tax to begin with.
Yeah, just think of it as a bad
and we know
tax.
Yeah, we know that Donald Trump has talked about if you take your plants, your auto plant specifically, has been his focus of conversation. If you take that to Mexico and try to bring cars back into America, we're going to put a tariff or a tax on those and make it more attractive to stay in America. But you're saying that the Republicans across the board, anything, a shirt, a shoe, a washer, whatever it might be.
Yeah, this is not specifically aimed at a specific plant or company or something like that. This hits everything. Absolutely everything. So you go to Walmart, you go to Target, you're going to find yourself paying higher prices. And what's even crazier is that if you sell something overseas, you get a big tax break. So if a company sells a piece of equipment to Iran for $1 million, that $1 million is free of taxation. So we're going to subsidize the Iranians, the Chinese, and others, and we're going to punish American consumers. It just is. I'm just rolling my eyes at what they're thinking.
That's mind blowing because a couple of things come to mind of things that we sell to foreign countries that would have that kind of ticket price. Caterpillar D9 bulldozers, Mack trucks that go to work in these giant mines and in industrial complexes in China and so forth. So we export those things. They go tax free, but if they bring stuff back to us, we're paying 20%. Who thought this was a good idea? This is new to me, sir, and I'm shocked, frankly.
Well, the Republicans in the House of Representatives have conjured this thing up, led by Paul Ryan, and he insists they're going to force the president to accept it, that he's going to have to take it with a tax package. If you go to an interview Ryan did the other night on the Charlie Rose show, you can find it on YouTube, he makes it very clear on this tax thing that they think they can get the president, the next soon-to-be president, to go along with it. I don't think they will. Trump the other day.
But what's the rationale? Why do they think? I mean, why would Paul Ryan? I mean, telling Charlie Rose something like that probably made Charlie Rose giddy. But why would Paul Ryan? You get that, yeah. Steve Forbes on the line with us here today, sorting out this strange new tax, the border adjustability tax that the Republicans apparently think they can push through. What is the point behind this? What is the goal here?
Well, the goal is they think it's a way to raise revenue to finance other tax cuts, and $100+ billion a year. And instead of focusing on cutting spending, Trump's people are considering over 10 years, literally trillions of dollars of savings that you can have by more efficiently running things and consolidating programs and the like. So that's where you get the money from, and the real money from a tax cut comes from greater economic growth. Ronald Reagan demonstrated that 35 years ago. You get a booming economy, and by golly, life is better for everybody.
That's right. You do it on volume. You might get lower tax rates, but you do it on great volume. That's how big businesses thrive, by having smaller margins, but moving a lot more product. I mean, you understand that basic principle, obviously.
Yes, and so they've I don't know what Kool-Aid they've been drinking. Maybe the EPA should examine it, but it's bizarre, and we've got to just rally and say, let's just go for a traditional good tax cut across the board, cut tax rates, cut business taxes, which are the worst in the world, and that's critical, along with the deregulation and reforms to Obamacare, like chucking it out, for starters, to get the economy moving again.
Absolutely. Steve Forbes on the line with us here on the Steve Gruber Show on this Inauguration Day 2017. I think it's pretty safe to say by the conversation and comments made by Donald Trump that he understands that American business, certainly small business, the S-corps of this world, that they are facing too much regulation, too much taxation. So when you talk about this border adjustability tax that would hit middle-class families right between the eyes, I mean, he's smart enough and savvy enough to know that that won't work. What good does it do to cut taxes to jumpstart the economy, get things rolling, if you turn around and put in this aggressive 20% border tax, if you will? I don't think that he'll necessarily buy into it. And let's be honest, nobody uses the bully pulpit quite as effectively as Donald Trump does, from what I've witnessed thus far. Are you optimistic maybe that he can block that out?
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. The other day he spoke skeptically, very skeptically of this thing. So it's way too complicated. But I think a lot of House Republicans get the idea, well, we'll tell the new president that if he wants his tax cuts, he's got to go along with this. And it'll be good for trade and all that kind of stuff. And, in terms of trade, Trump has it right. There are abuses. You deal with the abuses. This outgoing administration, as we know, let others get away with violating the rules and all sorts of things, especially in cybersecurity. So you deal with wrongdoing, but you don't punish everybody, for crying out loud.
Well, my question to you, Mr. Forbes, is if the Republicans and Paul Ryan pursue that kind of a tax policy, how are they different than those across the aisle? How is that any better or different from those directly across the aisle that they claim to be different from?
Well, they'll say, but other taxes we want to cut. Good, we get that. But, if you put in a tax like this, it's just one small step away from a value-added tax, huge sales taxes that they have in Europe, which has crushed their economies there. And, someday the Democrats will get back in, and they're going to use this thing to ram up taxes like you've never seen before. So we're handing the opposition this huge destructive weapon and doing it as a post-Christmas gift. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. We've got about 30 seconds here, Steve, and I'm just curious, overall, I know you were not a Donald Trump supporter from the beginning, but where are you today? What are your thoughts overall as we enter this new era of American leadership?
Well, I think he's put together a very good team. The Democrats so far have not been able to knock down one nomination yet. People like James Mattis, General Mattis at Defense, highly regarded around the world. I think Tillerson certainly did well in the hearings. I don't know if he can get the skeptics around, but he certainly came across as very informed. And what I think we should take some comfort from.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
Well, it looks like the rain's going to slide in for the inauguration. I don't know if rain on Inauguration Day is good luck. I suppose we will find out because it looks like it's going to be maybe a bit of a wicked little storm. And umbrellas not allowed according to the items that are banned. Now, some folks saying they've changed that, but I certainly doubt it. I don't think they change security measures at the last minute because that would obviously not be a good plan. But the moment that Donald Trump takes the oath of office, we are told that it's time to go to work. Before any of the galas or balls tonight, he's going to go to work. Now, the Bible he's using, I find it interesting. It's the same Bible used by Barack Obama in 2009 and 2013, and by Abraham Lincoln in March of 1861. I think that's interesting. The president-elect set to take the oath shortly before noon. He spent most of yesterday meeting with supporters, getting his team in place. Incoming White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer would not give specific details about the extent and timing of Trump's promised actions to turn back some of President Obama's policies, but he promised a, quote, robust start. And make no mistake, we're ready to go on day one, said Spicer, probably in the area of 4 to 5 that we're looking at on Friday as far as executive actions, just to get things rolling. From there, Donald Trump will be under pressure to begin working on his first 100 days and focusing on that speech that he gave back in Gettysburg during the campaign that we've been touching on, some of the things he talked about in that speech from Gettysburg. He wants to cancel every unconstitutional executive action. Apparently that might start today. Every unconstitutional executive action, memorandum, and order issued by President Barack Obama. He said he's going to put things, well, back the way they should be. He's going to begin the process of selecting a replacement for Justice Antonin Scalia, but I'm guessing that person has already been selected, or at least it's been pared down to 1 or 2 candidates that were on that list of 21, including 2 from Michigan, by the way. He plans to cancel all federal funding to sanctuary cities. Now, this is going to be a battle that puts Eric Holder, the former Attorney General, in line to battle the new administration. Eric Holder, hired by the state of California to defend against this kind of action by the Trump administration. We'll see how that plays out with Governor Jerry Brown in California trying to defend sanctuary cities. Donald Trump says he will begin removing the more than 2 million criminals that are here illegally, the criminal illegal immigrants from the country, and cancel visas to foreign countries that refuse to take these people back where they belong. Also, suspend immigration from terror-prone regions where vetting cannot safely occur. All vetting of people coming into our nation will be considered extreme vetting, says Donald Trump, which means background checks, which means health checks, which means a whole different approach to how we do things. He says he will lift the restrictions on the production of $50 trillion worth of job-producing American energy reserves, including shale, oil, natural gas, and clean coal. Lift the Obama-Clinton roadblocks to allow vital energy infrastructure like the Keystone Pipeline to move forward. He plans to cancel billions, that's with a B, billions of dollars in payments to the United Nations when it comes to climate change programs, and use the money to fix America's water and environmental infrastructure. Also, middle-class tax relief. Now, we just talked to Steve Forbes there about this new border adjustability tax, which is, that's not the right direction to go. And if that's the direction the Republicans intend to pursue, we will criticize vigorously here. This is not a time for massive new taxes across the board. It's a time to reduce taxes, reduce regulations, allow the American middle class to pick up more jobs, more momentum, give S corporations a break, make it possible for people to invest and save without being punished with draconian capital gains taxes. I mean, the capital gains tax was 15% when Barack Obama took office. I believe it's just above 28 now, and it might even be higher. I haven't looked recently, but I know it was increased a couple of times. So therefore, those taxes must be reduced. Donald Trump expects to end the Offshoring Act, establishing tariffs to discourage companies from laying off their workers to relocate to other countries. Now, that's different than this border adjustability tax. So what he's talking about is people like General Motors and Ford, who, by the way, apparently heard the message and decided to come back and invest billions in American factories, including a couple in Michigan, which is good news for the folks in our state. He wants to do the American Energy and Infrastructure Act, leveraging public and private partnerships and private incentives and investments through tax incentives to spur $1 trillion, that's $1 trillion with a T, in infrastructure investment over the next 10 years. And he claims that will be revenue neutral. So these are all things that Donald Trump plans to approach in the first 100 days. We're going to find out a lot about his stamina now, aren't we? Of course, you've heard repeal and replace Obamacare. We'll see. That probably won't take very long. And one of the things his daughter Ivanka talked about back during the campaign, the Affordable Child Care and Elder Care Act. Now, this is something that conservatives and Republicans criticized him for, and Democrats said we like that idea. It would allow Americans to deduct child care and elder care from their taxes. It incentivizes employers to provide on-site child care services and would create tax-free dependent care savings accounts for both young and elderly dependents with matching contributions for low-income families. And then, of course, is the Illegal Immigration Act. Fully funds the construction of the wall, whatever it may be made of, at the southern border, with the full understanding that the country of Mexico will be reimbursing the United States for the full cost of such a wall. It establishes a 2-year mandatory minimum federal prison sentence for illegally reentering the U.S. after a previous deportation, and a 5-year sentence for coming here with previous felony convictions. These are all part of the list laid out in Gettysburg. How much can Donald Trump get done in the first 100 days? Well, he's going to start today sometime not long after 12 noon. And we'll keep you up to speed. It's the Steve Gruber Show on Inauguration Day 2017.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it. As you may have heard from yesterday, Ronna Romney McDaniel named the new chair of the Republican National Committee. Fully expected, obviously. She was put in as vice chair briefly to replace Reince Priebus, who, of course, is moving on to be Donald Trump's chief of staff. In fact, he's taken that position, obviously, a few weeks ago. And now moving to the White House, to the West Wing, as Donald Trump takes the oath of office sometime just before noon today, as it is Inauguration Day. And as you can imagine, as we had people here yesterday, Congressman Huekstra and Congressman Wahlberg and Congressman Kildee today on the program, a whole host of people, of course, converging on Washington, those that work here and those that do not, for the inauguration ceremonies. Expect to be more than 1 million people on hand for that, and some protesters as well, as you can imagine. And then the march tomorrow, the Women's March tomorrow here in Washington, it is expected to attract a large crowd. We don't know how big yet. One of the folks that is on hand is Attorney General Bill Schuette. He has he's in the neighborhood as well, as is his press secretary, Andrea Bitely, who joins us on the program at this moment. Andrea, how are you?
Hi, Steve. I'm well. We're going through security right now, actually.
All right. Well, if you get the pat down, we'll just do that live. All right. If you're going to get the search.
Like a plan. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to be on our way down there shortly. How are the crowds looking to you?
Well, we are approaching the Senate side of the U.S. Capitol, and things are moving. There's lots of folks that are pretty excited out here, and the office really can't stop and talk, so it's just a continuous moving stream of people.
Well, I understand, and we're going to be doing that shortly. We're going to kind of make our way that way. I guess there's this air of optimism is what I've gathered in Washington over the last 2 or 3 days, and you're out there and you're talking to people. What is your sense?
It's really exciting. A lot of people are very hopeful, very optimistic about being here. I know Attorney General Kildee was pretty excited to get out here this weekend and really celebrate President Trump, our new GOP chairwoman, Ronna Romney McDaniel, and also our Secretary of Education nominee, Betsy DeVos.
Betsy DeVos getting a lot of flack this week, but those that know her and know her work and know her dedication, certainly defending her. So obviously this is going to be a big day for you, a big day for Bill Schuette, who, it's no secret the man is being rumored to run for governor. So that's obviously a big deal. But as you make your way through security, give us some last thoughts on what you're hoping for in the Trump administration.
Well, we're hoping for a decreased regulatory climate that will allow American business, especially Michigan small business, to really proliferate and grow over the next 4 years. We're already seeing great things in Detroit with the auto industry and the new jobs we're going to see making cars, like Michigan's supposed to do.
All right. Well, I think that's the most important thing to Michigan, obviously, is jump-starting the economy. All right, Andrea, I greatly appreciate it. Andrea Bitely is the press secretary for Attorney General Bill Schuette. She's working her way through the crowd live from Washington, D.C. down there. And, Andrea, I appreciate it because I can hear you jostling around and I can hear people giving directions and so forth. But I certainly appreciate you stopping in and letting us know what it looks like right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Have a great day.
You too. Andrea Bitely, she is the press secretary, like I said, for Bill Schuette. Now, we're going to do exactly that here in a few minutes. What we're going to do here on the program is we're going to talk to some folks from Hillsdale College. Dr. Spalding is going to join us here on the program because we can't say thank you enough to Hillsdale College for putting us here in the Boyle Studios. It is part of the Kirby Center, Hillsdale College in Washington, D.C., that helped make this all possible. They've helped us put these shows together, and we look forward to working with them in the future. Great partner there. As has been Like Law, Hillsdale College, the Wycoff Wellness Center, DTE Energy, all making it possible to come here to Washington for this event. And one other thing, if you can't make it to Washington, there's also Battle Cry Michigan, battlecrymichigan.com that you can check in on. And if you want to go watch the inauguration, you still got a few minutes. Or listen to some conversations about politics this weekend. It's all happening at Soaring Eagle, so that's going on. So here's what's going to happen. I have Dr. Matthew Spalding here, the Associate Vice President and Dean of Educational Programs for Hillsdale College, joining me shortly. And then, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to replay the interview that I did with Donald Trump on Election Day, the day that people said he couldn't possibly win, the day that many people said would never actually come for Donald Trump because he was not a serious candidate. We're going to replay that interview at the bottom of the hour, and then we are going to be live in the crowds making our way to the inauguration. We're taking you along for the walk and check the latest technology to make sure that it works. But it's a historic day in America. Now, that's true whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal or a conservative, because ever since George Washington handed the baton to John Adams in the peaceful transfer of power, that was not the way things were done in this world. America changed that. And even in this very contentious election season, that is what's happening, the peaceful transfer of power from Barack Obama to Donald Trump, two polar opposites politically. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. These are two men that don't see the world nearly the same. And yet, there will be no conflict. There will be the peaceful transfer of power from one political party in charge to another, from one set of ideas to a new set of ideas, and it'll all happen very peacefully. So it is a historic day in America, something to educate children. It's an education for the world to watch as well. I mean, think about the world press and what they've said about Donald Trump and what the world thinks of America, and yet what they will see today are bands from places like Everett High School in Lansing, Michigan, marching down the street and playing for Donald Trump. You'll see people from all over the world here. You'll see people from all over the country. And I was taken yesterday, by the diversity, and yes, I use that word, the diversity of the people that I saw in this city, in our nation's capital, wearing Trump hats and shirts, a wide range of people, not the stereotypical supporter you would come to believe from listening to the mainstream media. There is a whole host of folks out there, that have, well, they're supporting Donald Trump and they're praying for his success. I mean, seriously, praying or hoping for Donald Trump to fail as Dr. Ben Carson put it, would be like hoping for the pilot of the airplane to fail that we're all flying on. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's a hopeful day. There is this aura of optimism, as we talked about earlier. There's an aura of optimism here. Even for those that are sad to see Barack Obama go, it seems that there are many more that are pleased to see Donald Trump come. 52% support Donald Trump in the latest Rasmussen poll out early today. 52% of support for Donald Trump, and that's a big change now, isn't it? It's Nation Day, and you're listening to The Steve Gruber Show.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome back to an 18 After on this historic day, January 20th, 2017. It's Inauguration Day, the final moments of the Obama administration after 8 years, and the beginning of a new era, for sure. And for some, it just seems to be this aura of optimism that we've found out there in Washington over the last couple of days. We've been broadcasting from the Boyle Studios, Hillsdale College here in Washington, D.C., and it's been a fabulous arrangement for us. And joining me now is Matthew Spalding, the Associate Vice President and Dean of Educational Programs for Hillsdale. Matt, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you. Good morning and welcome to Washington, D.C.
Well, what a great facility you have here, and what a great place to view history as it happens in Hillsdale, with its focus on American history and constitutional principles.
Absolutely, and this is a historic event by any means. The idea of transition of power between one political party to another political party, and such diverse individuals that power is changing hands here. This is historic. This does not happen in most places in the world. It's extremely significant, and to be right here. We're literally 2 blocks from the Capitol.
Well, we are right here, just a couple of blocks from the Capitol, and like you say, historic day. And I don't think you could find 2 people, Barack Obama and Donald Trump, that are more polar opposites. These are 2 very different individuals.
Many just words to describe the difference. They're vastly different, and their administrations are going to vastly different directions. Look, this was a watershed election by any measurement. There was a question put to the American people. Both campaigns put it in very stark terms, and it was forced, if you will. That's a watershed, potentially could be a realignment, a turn in the direction of American politics. Lots to be seen. We'll see what happens and where these things go. But this, I think we will look back and see this as a point at which the direction of American politics, for some period of time to be determined, has shifted.
I think it's a rejection, I think, of many of the policies over the last 8 years, very socialist in nature, many of them that have taken us to the deep left.
Yeah, and then the general rise of that kind of liberalism over not just the last 8 years, but for some time. That direction came to dominate the Democratic Party. It was represented by the current administration, and that was the direction the Hillary Clinton as a candidate was going to take the nation. That was clearly given as a choice to the American people. They rejected that. They chose change. What the substance of that change is, we're just starting to see, and where it goes. That's the big question as to what now happens, because it's not just your run-of-the-mill, off-the-shelf Republican Party anymore. It was a populist movement that is, historically, if you think of other populist movements, they're not quite as predictable, are they?
Oh, well, they're certainly not. And part of this movement, and we talked about this weeks in advance of the election, that it was going to drive through the Midwest, through Hillsdale, Michigan, for example, through Wisconsin, through Pennsylvania. And in fact, when I spoke to Donald Trump on Election Day, we discussed the fact that Middle America felt that it had been left out of the last 8 years, maybe longer, in fact, and that those thought that they should have a better chance, to go to work for their families. These are bread and butter, kitchen table issues, and it drove right through Middle America and really right through where Hillsdale College is located in the industrial Midwest that wants a chance to go to work.
No, I think that historically, when you think of turning point elections in American history, you could go back to 1980 with Reagan, go back to the 1930s with FDR in a different direction. 1800, right? There are these periods in which, whether one realizes at the moment or not, in hindsight, you can kind of see there really was a turn. You see it in electoral terms in terms of states and how elections actually occurred. But but you can piece things together that perhaps sometimes the candidate themselves don't quite see. But it kind of takes on a life of its own, and the American people clearly have spoken in this way.
As I look back, I think this election, to me, if I was going to find one historical comparison, I go all the way to 1828. Because when Andrew Jackson was elected, the hillbilly from Tennessee, as some referred to him, the complete outsider, I kind of see Donald Trump cast in that way because he's a guy that wasn't given much of a chance, not taken seriously by many people, and yet the populist movement, like you said, sir, they're unpredictable, and this wave carried him in.
No, that's right, and I keep trying to strike my what's the best model here.
Sure,
and I think there isn't a model in a certain sense. There are certain ways in which he resembles Andrew Jackson. There are other ways in which he doesn't, in a very clear way. I mean, Andrew Jackson was a very firm, strong executive, overly strong in many ways, very centralizing. I'm not sure, actually, that's where Donald Trump's going to go. In the modern era, there have only been two successful populist movements and candidacies. Franklin Roosevelt, whose populism turned leftward and centralized and built government, but it was the forgotten man, kind of like Donald Trump talks.
Correct.
And Ronald Reagan, who turned his populism in his famous first inaugural towards what? Back towards the Constitution and limited government, and he went the opposite direction. Those are Trump's two models. And I think where he falls on that spectrum will be central determining which way his administration is going.
And obviously he's got a lot of things. We were told by Sean Spicer and others that there will be some executive actions taken today on his first half day in office. And, of course, celebrations tonight before he turns to full-time work starting tomorrow, the first 100 days. We've got about a minute left here. Give me a couple of things that you would like to see that would make you feel optimistic about the Trump administration going forward.
Well, I've got to say, first, if you see the people he's appointing, the potential here is vast, and there's plenty of reason for optimism. I think we'll see a lot of administrative actions immediately turned back in terms of executive orders. What I'm most interested to see, which I'm optimistic about right now, is how the new administration and Congress starts interacting, because it's going to take legislation to make real significant change. It's one thing to reverse an executive order. It's one thing to pull back an agency. It's one thing to do something through executive action. But to really change the course and the direction of the country, you need Congress and the executive working together, passing legislation, getting hold of budgets, controlling spending, authorizations, and appropriations. Good old-fashioned hard work. I think they're up to it. They seem to be, they're right at the bit. They're ready to go. But we'll see that, and we'll know that pretty quickly. And that's where I think, if you're going to have optimism, that's where it's going to come from, is the separation of powers revived in a way between the executive and the legislative branch to actually change course.
Matthew Spalding, Associate Vice President and Dean of Educational Programs for Hillsdale College. Thank you so much on this historic day.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
We walked right past it.
All righty. Well, here we are checking the technology. Alex tells me it's working because we're working in D.C. trying to get ourselves to the gate. Use those tickets, get into the inauguration. It's Inauguration 2017. You're listening to the Steve Gruber Show. And walking right down the street of the nation's capital at Maryland and 2nd. So there you go. I understand Dave is on the hotline this morning from Williamson. Dave, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Steve. First of all, I want to thank you and Ivy and all your team for getting Donald Trump across the line. I know your hard work.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. How do you feel today?
I'm having a superior day, thank you. Second of all,
yeah,
Steve,
it's an incredible day.
Could you let Donald Trump know that Dave from Williamson's got a trash pump, and if he needs help draining the swamp, have him give me a call.
Dave, I appreciate that. I'll be sure to let the man know. There's a good chance we might see him tonight. Dave, thanks for checking in on the hotline. Really good chance. We're going to the Michigan Gala tonight, which means all the folks will be there. Ronna Romney McDaniel, of course, named officially as the chair of the Republican Party yesterday. And with everybody else from Michigan, be it Betsy DeVos or Ronna Romney or Pete Hoekstra and the other folks around the Michigan team that helped get him across the line and win Michigan by, what was it, 10,700 votes, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump ends up at the Michigan ball tonight, or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. The weather here a little gray and overcast, rain falling. But there's still this, as I mentioned all day, this, sense of optimism here in the streets as I'm walking now with crowds of people headed toward the gate where we get to go in and witness history in action. I've never been to an inauguration myself, so this is the first time for me, for my wife, for my 12-year-old daughter. And I encourage everybody to share it, whether you believe, no matter which side you're on. It's a peaceful transfer of power. That's what it is. Megan Barth is somewhere on the inside, my understanding, and she's joining us now, too, from ReaganBaby.com. Megan, how are you? Megan, good.
Blue launch. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you, Megan. How are you? It's a lot going on. How are you?
I know there's a lot going on. I have a leopard umbrella, so if you see a leopard umbrella, that would be me.
Perfect. What do you think the mood is today? What's the mood where you are?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, everybody's been here for about as long as we have. It started 5:30 this morning, and we have, except touching my butt right now, which I wasn't really excited about. But no, everyone's just kind of anxious. We're ready to go. There was a few little sprinkles, but everyone's in a really good mood. I mean, this is history. We're all a part of history, and
I agree with that. And you know what I haven't seen? There was a lot of news last night about protesters and some problems with the police. I haven't seen much of that at all. I've seen a few people walking along with a piece of cardboard in their hand, but really, protesters? Not like I thought I would see.
Last night was pretty wild. They stormed the Breitbart party, and they stormed outside the Patrol Ball. And I was with Laura Ingraham last night, and she actually had a hat thrown at her outside Breitbart, and she was whisked away in my pal's car. So they got pretty aggressive.
Nice.
And then I met with a couple of them on the street. Typical anarchists, cover their face, have the bandana, scream obscenities, chase little old ladies down the street. I mean, I got it all on video. Yeah.
Right. But really, we live in a nation of 325 million people that's going to have the peaceful transfer of power today. If a couple 100,000 people showed up, that wouldn't represent much, and I haven't seen anything near that. So here we are, waiting for, about 11:30, 11:45, when Barack Obama is no longer the president of the United States. Go ahead and cheer, Megan.
I'm like, he only has just a few more hours to go. So, yeah, I'm kind of happy to be on. The less time he has, the happier I am.
There you go. All right, Megan, we're on our way in. As you know, it's chaos, but I appreciate you joining me. I'm going to have to go without. Thank you, Megan. Megan Barth from ReaganBaby.com. She's already inside the security belt. We're working our way that way. The beauty of technology, obviously, making this all possible. As you can imagine, the security presence is impressive here with police vehicles and military, and a very clear sign that nobody's going to take any bad behavior too seriously. I do see a half a dozen protesters coming by saying that it's time to impeach Donald Trump. He's not even president. These people are a bit ahead of the curve, I would say. But what a historic day and what a historic event we're witnessing here on the Steve Gruber Show. And I'm glad to have you along with it and doing it this way because, well, how else would we do it? It's the best way to make you part of history as well. Let's see here. There we go. And now I'm seeing a few more protesters, but what I'm seeing mostly is American flags and people of all creeds with Trump gear, Trump hats, Trump attire, from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all states of the Union. This is a historic moment in American history as Barack Obama will pass the baton of power to Donald Trump And we're told that before this day is over, Donald Trump will be taking executive actions to overturn the executive actions of Barack Obama. And that's why it's so important to go through Congress when you have things done and not just rush things through with a phone and a pen, I guess is what we would say. And the chance of drain the swamp everywhere as we're getting closer to the venue. It's exciting, and we're going to tell you all about it, have pictures and video, and live Facebook on the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page today as well. We'll be right back with some final thoughts on the Steve Gruber Show. Heading for the finish line on this Friday, January the 20th, Inauguration Day. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., out in the middle of it on the National Mall now. Headed for the Blue Gate and on our way in to watch this historic moment. We don't know what Donald Trump's prescription for America will be. Dr. John Wycoff has a prescription for you to feel better, though, this weekend. He's having a big event, too. Doctor, go with it.
Well, we want to make America great, just like Donald Trump, but Wycoff Wellness wants to make Mid-Michigan great and healthy again. So start your path tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Wycoff Wellness at our annual holiday open house. It's free, open to the public, discounts on all of our quality products, discounts on all of our services, refreshments, seminars. Come by, meet me, meet my staff, have a lot of fun, and take part of getting yourself on that path to health and wellness.
Dr. John Wycoff, thank you, sir, for your support of this event and our program through the years. Greatly appreciate it. You're a great American. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Steve. God bless you, and God bless America.
There you go. All right, Dr. John Wycoff, as we're headed down through the National Mall now, headed for the blue entrance. We're going to do live Facebook posts throughout the day. Go to Steve Gruber Show on Facebook. The Steve Gruber Show on Facebook. We'll do live Facebook posts today. So we'll try to bring you everything we can. Of course, a complete wrap-up coming up on Monday. And by Monday, I'm going to guess, we're going to have some news to talk about as far as executive actions, executive orders, and so much more. And that's going to wrap it up for us for today here from Washington, D.C. Thank you to Hillsdale and Wycoff and Like Law and DTE Energy for making it all possible. You've been listening to The Steve Gruber Show. Keep the faith, my friends. We'll talk soon.